I don't think I've ever told you guys this, but when Sadie gets in a sad mood, like the mood she's in today, we call her Sadie. She's Sadie today. She just wants to snuggle, and she also wants to be on an adventure, and everybody's working and she's not allowed outside, so she can't do both/either of those things, and she's Sadie. Hey y'all, and welcome to this video. I'm your host, Hannah Louise Poston. Your other host, Sadie, has just exited the room, but maybe she'll come back. She usually does come back around multiple times when she's Sadie. I am coming at you in some wrinkly pajamas, and I am going to be putting on the base makeup that I've been wearing lately. I've been really enjoying the way that my face has looked, or my skin has looked in the videos lately, and several of you have commented too. You know how we are, we who love to change things up with our makeup and experiment and just like mess around. We'll like go in little waves or little seasons of the way that we do things, and I feel like the current season of how I'm doing my base, what I've been doing lately, there's been a lot of interest in it, and I have also been particularly enjoying it. So I'm just gonna do it today. I'm gonna do what I've been doing every time I've put on my makeup, both when I'm filming and I'm not. It's gonna be pretty simple, nothing elaborate on the rest of the face for sure, but it is overall pretty simple. It's just some little like techniques, ways of doing things that I realize I've been doing for a while now, and I've never really talked about it on YouTube. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna try to do it not too brandy. Like I'm not gonna be like, this is the secret ingredient, this exact concealer, this exact thing. I'm gonna talk about the products I'm using in terms of the qualities that they have, so that you can, use what you have, pick your own version of this thing, because there are a lot of versions of everything good in makeup on the market. But I will tell you what I'm using, and I'll put them all in the description box, and I'll put alternatives too. This is really just more of a technique demonstration is what I'm trying to say. If this is your first time to my channel, hi, I can't believe you're still here after I blabbered on so long at the beginning of the intro. My name's Hannah, I love beautiful things, and I'm into having a balance between being interested in product and what's new and all this stuff, and just, making sure that you use what you own and that I use what I already own, and that we all just keep our heads when it comes to what's reasonable for spending and acquisitions of new stuff in the beauty world. If that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe. Now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. What do I already have on, and what have I been doing for skincare? I'm gonna tell you. I have brows. I just have soap in my brows. I've like set them in like a regular shape, and I haven't filled them in at all. The dye that I recently put in them is kind of starting to fade a little bit, so they're not very sculpted right now. They're just like this. It's totally fine, and this is what I've been doing a lot lately. This morning, I'm testing the NuFace device, so I used it about half an hour ago. I did like a quick pass on my face with a gel mask, and then after that, I just layered on a bunch of a milky serum. So not a serum, not like a clear serum, and not a thick moisturizer. I've really been enjoying those kinds of serums that are something in between, like a liquidy moisturizer. The one that I use today is one from Hannah Cure that I've had for a while, but I'm often jumping between them. I really like the ones from Derma E actually for that purpose. They make a good one. I also have been wanting to tell you, I did this after saying that I'm not like telling you about product, but just about function. I'm like immediately telling you about this new product, but you'll understand, I think, when I tell you, because it's an acne thing. And I think that when it comes to acne, yeah, there are a lot of things on the market that sort of do the same thing, but if you've struggled with it the way that I have, you know that when you find something that's working seemingly better than other things have, or that have, that's like working for you in that moment, I think it's often cyclical with acne. Like I'll find something that'll work really well for a while, then my skin will kind of acclimate to it and it won't work as well. This recently was sent to me in PR. It's by Peyote Paris, which I think is a French pharmacy brand, and it's called Pâté Gris. It's a really, really, really old product, which is kind of intriguing. It's been around like since the 50s or like since the 60s or something like that. And it's a very greasy paste. It has kind of a pungent smell, like you're at a quarry, like smell of rocks. It's supposed to help blemishes it's to help pull them out from under the skin, really deep under the skin things, help them come to maturation faster. And I've been testing it, and I've got to say it's worked better than anything that I've tried during this recent and pretty long spate of acne that I've been having. It's been calming things down overnight, which is really, really great. So for my whole situation for my face this morning, it was this overnight on my blemishes, NuFace and then 1 milky serum, and that's all. And I have been kind of simplifying my skincare routine lately. I'm going to do a whole video on it soon, like an update, what I've been doing with my skin, but that's not what this video is about. Needless to say, I think that the important thing for applying this base is that my skin, which leans towards dry and is acne prone, so I have these healing blemishes and scars, and they tend to want to gather little flakes around them, like little bits of peeling skin. All of that is really, really, really well moisturized and massaged so that there aren't any dry flakes that are gonna pop up when I start applying complexion products and show themselves. There's Sadie having some little water. Is she a cat or a bunny? So the gag is that I haven't really been using primer lately. I've been priming with products that are just really highlighters. They're supposed to be for glowy skin. Today I'm gonna use a little bit of Glow by Auric, but Glow by Auric, but there are, there are others of this kind of thing on the market, right? Charlotte Tilbury has one. I have this e.l.f. one, which is like it's not the same, you know what I mean? But it is a liquid highlighting product that has a really strong glow that you could massage into your skin that would be nice and melty on the skin, like those kinds of things. The Charlotte Tilbury one is the one that's closest in formula to the one from Auric, but there are others that aren't anywhere near the same formula, but that would serve the same purpose, and you might already have one. People talk about the L'Oreal one as being a good drugstore option, L'Oreal Lumi. There is also just, the option of using an actual glowy primer, like the VDL Lumi Layer Primer, the one from Danessa Myricks, Glossier Future Dew, the Chanel Illuminator, you know what I mean? Like I'm just, when I'm doing this, I'm like picking a thing like this, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right here before me. That's because I have a YouTube channel, and so I review stuff. I have way more than one person needs, but I'm like rotating among them. And that is by way of saying to you that you don't need to buy the one that I'm using today in this video. You might have one already that you could use. And so what I'm doing is, instead of priming my skin with like a proper primer, I'm putting this illuminator all over my skin. Actually, I'm not putting it all over. I'm putting it all over my cheeks, all over my nose, a little bit onto my forehead, and I'm putting it on my Cupid's bow, and I'll be like doing a tiny bit down here, but I'm not really bringing it onto the sides of my face. That's what I've been doing lately. Top lip, nose, and cheeks that's the important part. I kind of like having this glowy T-zone in my forehead, looking like I'm a little bit dewy naturally, but if you don't like that, or if you're oily and it really makes you feel like not your best, then, don't put it there. But that's what I have been doing. I've been doing that with like a makeup-y illuminating product instead of a primer. If you feel like you really must prime and you have a primer that serves a different function, like one that's not illuminating, you could prime first and then go in with a product like this. But I'm just telling you what I've been doing, and what I've been doing is going straight in with any one of these glowy products instead of a primer. A scandalo. And already you can see, I feel like it's like blowing out the lighting, that gleam right there. And I think that putting a sort of like a semi-sheer and brightly illuminating liquid product like that onto pretty much bare plumped skin, it's always going to give you a glow like that. And then the trick, and this is I think what I feel like I've been pulling off and why I wanted to film this video, the trick is to then retain that while covering what I want to cover, which are these spots and this redness like all over the bottom part of my face. So that's what I'm going to do next. I've been going in with a pretty creamy concealer that kind of matches my skin tone and is maybe even a little bit dark on the sides, just to kind of like take care of those pretty big areas of blemish without super brightening them, right? And so you could use, this is something you might use like a dot of foundation for. If I were to take a foundation and put it all over my face right now, I would pretty much cover up how glowy I look. And I don't need to do that, right? Because my skin looks really good right here and right here. I want it to look like that. I want it to show through. So I'm just covering up. If I were using a foundation, I just use a dot and put a dot there and a dot there. I like to use concealer for that. That's just what I do. I'm not a big foundation person. I find that foundations tend to be more drying than good creamy concealers. Or maybe it's just that the one that I am using, which is the one from Erin's Faces, is very creamy, so it's the one that I prefer. So I'm first going in to kind of just tone down the intensity of the redness and the spots just in that area. And that has gone a pretty long way already. Now it's tempting to take that product, because it worked so nicely as like a first layer there, all over my chin and like in this red parts around my nose and here and stuff. But I know that I want to use a slightly brighter concealer on those places. I want to use one that's like a little bit, just like a tiny bit lighter than my skin to pop, like to bring it out and really make me look more awake. And so I'm not going to bring that concealer over those places, because I don't want layers and layers of makeup on my skin. I want the layers to be as thin as possible. So I put it where it's the most useful, but I didn't cover other parts of my face with it. And now I'm using this brighter concealer in the center of my face, like the part that I want to draw out, because it is what I want as like a finish there. It's what I want as the color there. So it's like the only thing I'm going in with there. It's like planning ahead, sort of. It's subtle, but it has, again, like just ever so slightly evened and brightened that much more the skin that I'm dealing with. What I didn't do, again, was to give in to the temptation to take that concealer to the sides of my mouth where I've got these little blemishes. I also didn't put it around the redness on my nose. And that's because I know what I'm going to do next, which is to spot conceal with like a sturdier pot cream concealer. I know that my liquid concealers aren't full coverage enough and aren't sticky enough to stick to these more blemished spots and areas. So I know that no matter what I put on my face, I'm going to end up covering those areas with this. So I'm refraining from covering them with anything else, because I know that I'm eventually going to get to them with this. And that way, when I do get to them, I'm putting this directly on those spots, and it's the first makeup that's going on them. It's not like the third layer. This is very much as opposed to, I think, what we often see people do on YouTube, which is to put on a primer all over the face, put on a foundation all over the face, then brighten with a brightening concealer on those certain spots, and then go in with a spot concealer if they need to on top even of that. So by the end of that, you've got like 4 pretty thick layers of makeup on your face. And what I'm just doing is only putting the product that I want to be the final product, the last thing, the top layer, only putting that on each area of my face where I want it to be. So that started with the illuminator on my cheeks and Cupid's bow, and I'm not covering it up. And then the creamy concealer on the sides, and that's pretty much it. Then the brightening one on the high points, and that's pretty much it. And now I'm going in with the spot concealer to conceal the spots. Some of the spots have a little bit of coverage already, like a little bit of residual from blending of what's on the side, or maybe a little bit of that illuminator. But for the most part, there's very little makeup on the parts of my skin that I'm about to cover with my spot concealer. Okay, so that's pretty much where I've been stopping most days with the initial bout of spot concealer. And here's what's going on now with the way that my face looks, especially in person. I'll tell you, because I know that it's different. I mean, the actual answer to why my skin has been so glowy lately is the beauty lights, you know what I mean? Like, they make a huge difference. But I'll tell you what's going on in person. In person, my skin does not look completely seamless. You know what I mean? Coverage wise, because I've done this kind of like areas of the face technique, coverage wise, it's perhaps a little bit less completely flawlessly even in single tone across where my blemishes are than it would be if I had put like a full coverage foundation all over my face and then built on top of that with concealer. But in person, it looks like I'm wearing way, 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 way less makeup than it would look like if I had done that, because I am wearing way less makeup. There's way less visible makeup on my face. In fact, from many distances in person, no visible makeup on my face. Like, you really can't see it very well. You can't see it sitting on top of my skin. Whereas if I had done what I needed to do with the scarred and blemished face that I currently have, if I had done what I needed to do to literally erase the visual presence of those blemishes at all, what I would have done is added a very strong visual presence of a lot of makeup on my face that would be visible from almost any distance in person with someone talking, like in a room. And I prefer what I have here. I prefer a slightly natural, uneven looking skin that doesn't visibly have a lot of makeup on it, to a face that is completely covered in makeup, visibly covered in makeup, therefore obscuring any variation in the tone of the skin that's underneath it. In a way, I kind of think of those as the only two options. You know what I mean? It's like if you have, especially if you have active acne, if you've got like three-dimensional blemishes, today they're pretty calm. Again, that was part of why I wanted to tell you about this one blemish product, because it has been really good at flattening. So even though I have a number of spots, I don't have very many that are really two-dimensional, although there's one right here and a little bit on this side, really three-dimensional, I'm sorry. They're just, mostly pretty calmed down. But especially if you've got three-dimensional stuff going on your face that you're trying to conceal, even the most full coverage concealer isn't gonna make it so that you don't see them. You know what I mean? So that it looks like they're not there. So it's just kind of a choice of like how you manage the fact that one will be able to see the blemishes on your face when someone has a conversation with you. Do you manage it by switching to the look of having a full face of full coverage makeup? Or do you manage it just by toning it down a little bit while still retaining a pretty fresh face? And I am pretty much always these days opting for the latter, and that's how I'm doing it. But I haven't been stopping there. And this is another reason why I wanted to film this, because I've been powdering, which is like a huge about face. I almost never powder. And again, I don't think that the powder matters that much. I have a couple, all three of them are ones that I didn't buy myself. One was a gift and two came in PR. I've just been rotating among them. I don't really see a measurable difference between them. I don't even really think of there being a huge difference between like a setting powder and a coverage powder and all that stuff, because I'm using so little that it doesn't really matter what it's for. It's just a little bit of powder is a little bit of powder, and it's there to help these areas be a little bit less shiny, because my face is all so glowy and can kind of get melty as I move through the day. You know what I mean? And then those imperfections can really start to pop through if it gets kind of melty. So it's kind of keeping that from happening just in key areas. And it's also helping to set that spot concealer and make it a little bit more tenacious if I'm having trouble covering something particularly smooth. And it's like the more I try to conceal it, the more it wipes itself away. Setting it with just a tiny bit of powder and then going back in with a little bit more cream concealer on top of it is what has been working for me. So you saw me like, I've been tapping off the brush so that there's almost nothing on it, right? What I really don't want is to go in with a very powdery brush and put like a blotch of powder on my face, because it'll stick there. I don't want that. I want a really, really light, just really light diffusion of it just on those spot concealed areas. And hopefully you can see the difference. Like it smoothed it a little bit, right? Here, it's just because it's still all creamy, you can see that it's just a little bit, it's reflecting more light. The facets of it are reflecting more light. And just that tiny bit of diffused powder has really smoothed it and made that part of my face sort of recede visually when you look at it, and recede in terms of light. And now there it is on the other side of the face. So I've especially been doing this around the corners of my mouth. I have a lot of blemishes there. They tend to come up there. And I've also been kind of doing it in my marionette lines, because when they're too shiny, it really draws attention to them. And then I'll usually take the brush once it feels like it has almost no powder on it. I'll take it just up under here, just ever so slightly, to help. So you can see it didn't cover up the glow there, but it just helped make it a little bit, just a tiny bit less intense. And the same with up here. I'll take like the brush up here, but I'm not like powdering up there with a powdery brush. I'm just taking the brush with its residual up there. So after that, I kind of sit back and I assess the situation, assess the coverage of the blemishes. And sometimes I'll go back in with just a tiny bit on a tiny brush and just like dot it on it to get that last little bit of coverage if I really need it. But I'm trying to hold myself back from continuing to go in, because that's how you end up with more makeup than you meant to have on your face on any given day. Again, I'm doing just a little bit of little tiny dots, just in little spots where I can see a little bit of the darkness of the blemish or scar coming through. I'm resisting the urge to blend. I don't want to do a lot of blending with this cream product now on top of the powder. Dotting it on top of the powder is really working because the powdered surface is holding on to the cream. It's like easier to cover a blemish that's a little bit dry, like a little bit powdered. But if I were to start really blending around in circles or like blending with a more diffuse brush like I was before on top of the powder, they would mix and kind of congeal and it wouldn't go well. So because I'm putting a cream on top of the powder, it's doable. I'm just doing it delicately. And really, that's it. That's the demo. Like, that's it. I'm going to go on and tell you kind of the rest of what I've been doing, but you can see how it's been done. I've retained the glowiness of my cheeks, which, you know, don't have anything on them except for illuminator, while covering those blemishes. If you have the blemishes on your cheeks as well, then, you know, more delicate dotting, spot concealing, blending, a little bit of experimenting, you can get something really similar. I don't tend to break out all the way up here, so that's why this method has been working really well for me. Another thing that I'll often see at this stage when I'm doing my makeup is that my neck will look really bright and white compared to my face, depending on how much redness I've been dealing with and how much I cover it when I go in with those concealers. Today it was pretty light coverage, but depending, sometimes my face will look more pink than my neck at this stage. And again, I'm going to resist the temptation to keep going back and going back in with like a whiter or brighter or yellower concealer, even though technically that's the color of my skin as evidenced by my neck. Rather than doing that, I am taking like the, again, fewer layers, less makeup approach by just darkening my neck a little bit to better match my face. And again, sometimes I deal with a more dramatic situation, like a line between my face and my neck, than I am today. Today, even if I were filming, I might just go with this. I feel like it doesn't look too shocking, but I will show you how I can make it match a little bit better. And you know, sometimes my neck is feeling kind of serum-y because of the skincare. Sometimes I'll go in just with a dry brush first and try to like make it less moisturized, because that moisturized skin will hold on slightly unevenly to powder. And sometimes I'll go in with whatever I was using as a setting powder, which is what I'm doing right now, and just brush it over to do the same thing, to kind of give myself a surface down here that my bronzing powder will adhere to more evenly. Again, it's very subtle, but that is a better match now for the tone of my face with this relatively light coverage on it. I don't think I'm gonna do any eye makeup today. I'm just going to put on a little bit of mascara just on my top lashes. And what I've been doing for cheeks a lot is just going in with a tiny bit of cream blush, kind of high on my cheeks. I do love like a really draped blush look, but because I have these blemishes creeping up towards my cheeks, and because they've been so delicately covered with concealer and then so delicately set with powder, I don't want to blend the cream blush down there. So I've just been sticking it up kind of high on the cheekbones and then doing a bit of a localized blend. The shine of that illuminating product does a lot to bring life to the face, which is what blush also does, you know? So I feel like with such shine here, I don't really need as much of a blush look. It's just sort of helping it look less monochromatic, my face less monochromatic. But I feel like it's less applying blush and more like just bringing a little bit of color back to my cheeks is what I've been doing with this look lately. Sometimes if I'm gonna be filming, if I have a strong eye look on, I'll go harder with the blush. I've been doing that a little bit lately. But especially for day-to-day, that's basically what I've been doing. For lips, interesting, actually. This I feel like is kind of a part of the overall technique. There's still illuminator on my upper lip, and I feel like it's been helping make the lip look cohesive with like the skin look and the face look, to let that illuminator sort of stay there and let it kind of be part of my lip look. If I were stamping on like a really strong, I don't know, like a really, really strong matte, like velvety color, full coverage color, not so much. But lately what I've been doing is wearing a lot of gloss, like lip liner and gloss. And I think that a glossy lip, an easy sheer glossy lip, enhances a glowy look and makes you look more glowy overall. So I feel like part of why I've been looking so glowy lately is that I've been wearing a lot of lip gloss. Even though what you notice is the cheeks, it's like the glossy lip sort of redirects the eye to the glossy cheeks. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is just how I feel. I'm gonna put on just like a neutral sort of jelly-like gloss, but what I will often do is take a neutral My Lips But Better lip gloss or lip liner and sort of blend actually, maybe I'll just do it. I'll do it for the sake of the demo because I do have one here. So I'm gonna just blend my lip line with the lip liner that's pretty much the color of my lips, just a little bit peachier. Blend it with the bit of illuminator that's on my upper lip and like a bit of illuminator that might be lingering on like below my lower lip. I'm sort of like making an illuminated lip line by blending the base product with the lip liner. This is essentially a bit of overlining. It definitely helps the lips look plumper. And I've kept it to the inner half of the lip. So like a quarter of my lips on this side and a quarter of my lips on this side, which together would make a half. I've left out of lining. So it's just if half of my lip was in half, just the inner half of that half, just the middle part of my lip is what I've done this with. I haven't brought the line like all the way down to the corner of my mouth is what I'm trying to say. And it's pretty subtle. It's like not a whole thing. I haven't like drawn on another pair of lips. I've just, again, used that product to blend the illuminator and sort of define and soften the edge of my lips at the same time. And now I'm going in with the gloss. Sometimes after I finish putting lip product on, I feel like I have a little bit of redness around under my mouth and on this part of my chin. I think that it's just from the pressure of applying lip product. I don't know what it is, but I do sometimes find myself as a last step going in with whatever I used for concealer and just kind of like fixing that bit up. I guess I'm putting my mole back on with this lip liner because it's all that I have over here. That is how I've been doing my base makeup lately and how I've been looking so glowy lately, even though I've had my share of blemishes and scars to conceal. And I've been doing this like a quick, maybe lighter version of this on days when I'm not filming as well, like no makeup. This is the way I've been doing my no makeup and the way I've been doing my makeup, and the way I've been doing my base when I sit down to film like an eye look or something like this. This is just what I've been doing. And again, I mean, this wasn't like a no brand tutorial or something like that, but I tried to talk more about the function of the products than I did talk about the products themselves. Again, I think that for all of the products, the exact products that I use today, there are handfuls of things on the market that will work for that kind of thing, and you probably already have some of them. And also there are probably things that I'm using that for you wouldn't be the perfect version of that thing. Like you might have a pot concealer that works better for you, a spot concealer that works better for you that's not in a pot. You might have a glowy base product that's way different from the one that I use, but that works the best for you. So it's really just about the technique of not covering up your whole face and then covering up more areas with other stuff and then more areas with other stuff, but really just looking ahead to what the final layer is going to be and just using that on that part of the face and trusting that you can get it all to blend together. If you have any questions about this, leave them down below. I'll try to get to them. I'm not always able to get to every single comment or see every single comment, but I do try to do my best, especially in the day or two following the video going live. And I hope this was enjoyable at least, or maybe even helpful to watch. And I really, really hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself today, because that's what will make you the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.